Welcome back to the 2020 IAHSP Virtual Conference and Expo. Next up, under the category of Clarity, presented by your IAHSP International Chairwoman Jenny Norris. Presenting Value versus Cost, Mindset Strategies to Increase Profits. Brought to you by Zoom Casa, your home concierge for life.
Hi, it's Jenny Norris, Chairwoman for the International Association of Home Staging Professionals, coming to you again. And my session is on value versus cost and mindset strategies for pricing for your business. This is such an important topic, and I didn't want to have the conference without including information on mindset and pricing. Now, this is different than pricing strategies, like how to price a proposal, how to come up with the cost for a property. This goes to your mindset and the value you bring to your clients with your services, and why we're worth what we need to be charging for our services. So, a lot of times people come into the business and they think they have to compete on price, that that's the only aspect of business that they can compete on with other stagers. And that's a fallacy. So competing on price often feels like such a natural path for people to follow, but it usually is the road to ruin. And none of us got into this business to be on a road to ruin. I know that most people, when you get in, you're not really quite sure what you can charge unless you've been educated in that aspect. There's a lot of resources out there that are not teaching proper pricing. So people are left to guess. And I know when I got started, I was in a market where there was no staging being done. Zero. I was literally the first professional stager in that region. So I had to guess on what to price my services at. And I knew that I wasn't going to just charge what I worked my income at a JOB. I knew what we were providing was more value. So I took a look at sister industries and I thought, well, what are they charging for their services and how are they perceived? And so my strategy was to come in a little bit underneath that. But I also understood that I was tied to the real estate industry. So we bring a lot of value to the process of selling a property. And the last thing we want is for stagers to be competing on price and be the lowball leader, because that is a road to ruin and you're going to run yourself out of business. So there has to be other strategies, other ways that you can justify your value, and more importantly, communicate that really clearly to your client. That's really the key. So the only time competing on price makes sense is when you have some sort of an advantage over your competitors. So for example, let's say that you're in a market and you're able to get your furniture, for example, wholesale. And so because it doesn't cost you as much for those items, you could charge less for renting them, although we don't advise that. But that could be something where you're able to compete because you're sourcing items and you're getting a better deal, so that you could charge less for those items and still make a profit over your competitor. Operating costs would be another area where maybe you run a really tight machine, a really tight company, and someone else has higher operating costs. And so because you're able to run your company, run your business at a more efficient level, it doesn't cost you as much, as an example, to run your company, that's where you could compete on price. However, again, we don't advise you to take a look at places where you're doing things for less money and then charge less, but it is really all about your bottom line price and your bottom line profit. And a minimum 25 to 30% profit is what you're aiming for with your business. So as you take a look at any time you're pricing your projects and so forth, it's not just what did it cost you to run that project, logistics, your time, your team, movers, your items you have to bring in. It's also your overhead. And I think a lot of stagers forget that word, overhead. How much does it cost you to even have your business? Whether you do one staging or 100, you have operating costs for your company, and that's called overhead. So every staging that you do, you need to be allocating a certain amount of money to cover that overhead. And you need to take a look at what that could be. So if you're newer, maybe your overhead would be your vehicle and your gas and your education, your events like this, a conference that you attend, memberships, maybe you have some inventory that you acquire, that's an expense. You have insurance. So those are all operating expenses. Your marketing material development and your marketing strategies and so forth, that costs money. That's an overhead expense. So you want to make a list of all the things that are considered overhead, your fixed operating expenses that you have, whether or not you stage one house, and then you allocate those over the number of stagings you do monthly. And so there's formulas that can help you figure this out, but the the point I'm making is that you're never 100% profitable on any staging. So trying to compete on price and not also taking a look at what your costs are to run your business is really not wise, because you could be not netting a profit. And obviously when you're in the growing mode and so forth, there are times when you'll be expending more money than maybe you're taking in, but you cannot sustain that long term. And you certainly don't want to be driving the market down. The real estate market right now is increasing. Most places around the country are seeing an appreciation of properties. There are some markets that are struggling. I know that. However, over 5 or 10 years, houses should appreciate. And so we're in a market where the sellers can make more money, buyers are paying more money for properties, real estate agents, realtors are making more money in commission because the properties are worth more. So then why, in the stager world, are the prices being driven down by people who get in and it's competitive, let's say, and they think, well, I'll come in and I'll charge less, so I'll get hired. And it's really, really hard to raise your prices once you set your fees with your clients. So your mindset is super important in understanding your value. Your value and what you bring to the table is part of your mindset and your belief. So please, get away from the strategy of don't compete on price. That's not a wise strategy. Now, when I do proposals, there's always wiggle room. So it's never take this price or leave it to the client. However, if they come back and their budget is really unreasonable, I'm not going to lower my prices down to the point where I'm going to lose money and basically be paying them for the privilege of staging their property. That's not a wise strategy. So competing on price is never the best way to go. There are a lot of other things that you can put out there for the clients that are going to compel them to want to work with you versus somebody else. And it's not about whether that other company is good or bad or what have you. It's why should they work with you? And that's your value added proposition and your differentiating factors that you need to have clearly identified in your marketing and in your messaging and in your communication. So here's the saying, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And Warren Buffett, who most of you know his name, very successful businessman, billionaire, that's his saying. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. So keep that in mind, that the value that somebody is receiving is not the same as someone who's doing a cheap staging, for example. Your value could also be in the process and the way that you deliver the product and the final outcome of the staging, which could be very different than someone else who does a minimal staging or vignette staging or something like that. So don't confuse the two. Price and value are very different. So many people, when they start up, try to undercut everybody as a strategy. And again, as I've already said, it's really hard to raise your prices once you've started to do that. And you don't want to be known as the lowball leader in your market. Once a client has paid less for something, they're going to expect that every time. And it's very hard to then re-educate them about what they really should have paid to start off with. So it's much wiser for you to understand the value you bring to the table and what your market will bear as far as pricing, and be within that range versus lowballing. Now, if you've taken a class and you weren't taught how to price in your market, we do have a pricing webinar, pricing suite. And in one of those webinars, I actually break down through North America, the pricing per major city. And there's actually a handout. And so I might be able to make that available to everybody here so you can kind of get an idea of what the going rate is in your region. And of course, we're not price fixing. You can charge what you want for your staging, but certainly, when I worked corporate America, I think I made $40,000 a year. This was way back when, for my income. So I think that's $20 an hour at a regular job. So let's say I leave the corporate world and I go, I'm going to start a business. Maybe you did this. And so you go, okay, what am I going to pay myself? Well, I made $20 an hour. I'm going to double my income. I'm going to pay myself $40 an hour as a stager. And you think you're going to be making twice as much money, and boy, that's a big raise. Not realizing you're leaving like more than 50% of the income on the table based on your market. So it's really important that you understand what your market will bear for staging, what the going rates are for your market, and then you want to come in and be within that range. And the variables, of course, are how efficiently you can run a project, how efficiently you stage, how long it takes you to do consultations, and so forth. So time is the great equalizer, and that's going to determine higher or lower pricing per stager based on how efficient they are running a project. So that's a whole other topic for another time, becoming very efficient in how you stage. This all boils down to mindset and having a confident mindset. when we're new, it's natural to be unsure and fearful even. And so we're going to talk about some ways to gain confidence in your mindset. So the first of all is to visualize your future. Most people get in to staging, maybe they've seen something on TV, or a colleague or a friend has a business and they think this would be a great thing for me to do. And so you start a business, but you don't really know what you're in for. And most of us started out that way. And so you get going and you start thinking, well, I don't really know anything, I'm new. Boy, that first phone call that comes in, that's a scary experience, isn't it? When somebody says, well, how much do you charge, or what are your services, or how do you work? And you're sort of tongue-tied and deer in the headlights, and you make your way through that conversation. So we've all been there. And the mindset is, just because you're new doesn't mean you don't know what to do. Just because you're new doesn't mean you don't have talent. Just because you're new doesn't mean you're not going to add value to the process that the realtor, the seller, the builder, or the investor want from you with staging. So being new doesn't mean you should be cheap, right? And that's never a good strategy. So visualize your future, and you want to have a long-term future in this business. You have got to set yourself up for success now with the mindset that you do bring value in a process that is a really important aspect of buying and selling properties. And so whether you see yourself 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 5 years from now, I don't know what your plan is, but I'm certain that most people don't get into any kind of a business with the mindset of like, well, I'll give it a try for 3 months and just quit if it doesn't work out. I mean, that's a total waste of your time and talent to do that. So you have to have a clear vision for your future. How do you want your business to grow? How do you see yourself getting there? And what kind of prices do you have to charge in order to support the business that you have? So people that have warehouses and bigger overhead budgets for that, they have to have a lot more stagings in place in order to crack that nut, is what I say. They have to bring a lot of income in to support that. Somebody that doesn't have that much overhead, you don't have to do as many stagings, or you're going to be making more individual profit because you don't have the same costs as someone else who has a larger operation. So there's give and take. Affirm yourself. So you want to be speaking positively about yourself. And so that again goes back to mindset. What is your self-talk telling you on a daily basis? Is it saying, boy, I'm really excited to stage and people are going to want to hear from me. Everybody I talk to is going to have a positive reaction. I'm great at what I do. I have something important. I have something valuable to share with other people. Is that your mindset, that you're affirming your value? Or is it, I don't really know what I'm doing and I don't think anyone's going to hire me. I'm just kind of, winging it and I'm flying by the seat of my pants. Now, that could be true. However, you can't say that to yourself. You have to be positive affirmations about your positive expectations. And every time you make an affirmation, it needs to be in the present. I am making this amount of money. I am staging this number of houses. I am working with this type of client. I am. Even if it hasn't happened yet, it's I am. So have your positive affirmations. You have to be your biggest fan. If you're not your biggest fan, you can't expect other people to be more building you up than you're doing it for yourself. Do one thing that scares you every day. What could that be? Is that picking up the phone and making a cold call? Is that, doing something that makes you uncomfortable, playing a sport? Or for me, what would scare me would be having to go and be next to a spider or something like that. That would scare me. Is it speaking in front of a group? Just do something every day that scares you so you're overcoming that fear. And there's a saying that fear has killed more dreams than anything else. Fear can hold you back, which we don't want to have happen. Question your inner critic. So if you're self-judgmental on yourself and very self-critical, you need to listen to that voice and stop it, because that's sabotaging your success. And we are critical of ourselves. I mean, who likes to see themselves on camera? Who doesn't feel like, oh God, my voice sounds weird or what have you? And that holds you back from doing things you know that you need to do to advance your business, like making videos to promote yourself and marketing, right? So we're so critical of ourselves, and yet most people are so self-absorbed on themselves, the things we think that they're going to judge us on, they're not even thinking of at all. So stop that critical thinking, the stinking thinking. There's something called the 100 Days of Rejection Challenge, and I did pull up a little thing on my phone here. Some of you may have heard this, but there's a man, his name is Jiang, and he left his corporate job and was going to go start his own business, and he had this big investor that was supposed to give him a big for his first big opportunity. Well, that person pulled the plug right as he left the company, his job, and all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, I quit my job and now I have no client. What did I just do? And he became fearful. And so he decided that he had to overcome the fear of rejection before he would ever be able to be as successful as he wanted to be. And so he created this 100 days of rejection challenge. So every day he'd go out and he'd ask things that he knew he was going to hear the word no. Some of them were kind of outrageous, like going to PetSmart and asking them to cut his hair like a German Shepherd. So it doesn't have to be like putting yourself in an actual business situation where you're going to hear no. It just basically, he had one where, let's see here, looking here, he thought he tried to send a present to Santa Claus through FedEx. Wanted to make an announcement on a Southwest flight. He was told no. Get his hair trimmed like a German Shepherd. He asked for Krispy Kreme to make Olympic-themed donuts, which they actually did. They didn't tell him no. And so as he went through this process over 100 days, the fear of rejection started to leave, and it became kind of fun to have these challenges. And he ended up with something like 51 no's and 49 yeses out of his 100 attempts to get rejected. So if that's something that you struggle with, hearing the word no or feeling like I don't want to be rejected, I don't want people not to like me, the fact is we're all going to hear no. There isn't one person, there isn't one stager in the world that bats 1,000. And what I mean by that is gets every single project they go after. It does not happen. We all hear no. And so once you accept that and realize when I hear no, I'm just one step closer to a yes, and you have that mindset, then that fear isn't going to hold you back from doing what you need to do to advance your business. Help somebody else. So when we take ourselves out of the focus and we're helping somebody else along their journey, then our mindset shifts. And it's less about us, and then it becomes about other people and helping other people. And isn't that what we are doing with staging anyway? Helping sellers, helping realtors, helping builders, helping investors, helping buyers, helping the real estate market. That's what we do. And then care for yourself. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself, getting enough rest, exercise, etc. Because a lot of us are caretakers of family. Women especially tend to be in that role of nurturers. And at the end of the day, we think like, well, who's going to care for me? So you have to make sure that you're taking the time to care for yourself and not letting your business run you ragged. Self-confidence is a person's belief or trust in their own ability. So you have to have self-confidence. Now, confidence is different than arrogance, right? So arrogance comes from a place of an attitude where that's not a real great attractive quality in people when you're arrogant, that maybe you think you know things but you really don't. Confidence is just having that you know your value, your worth, you're here to help people, and you have an air of confidence about you, and that's attractive to other people. So remember that we have something valuable to offer to our clients. We have a service that helps other people. So when you're trying to articulate why are you worth the fees that you need to be charging, this is why. What we provide in the process of selling a house is of great value. It's quantifiable, right? We have statistics that prove this. There are houses that when they're staged, they'll sell for 5-6 figures more than if they weren't staged. They spend less time on the market. Everybody wins. The seller wins, the realtor wins, whoever the client is. Even the buyer's happy because they're buying a property that was prepared for them and they feel good about the purchase. So we're part of that process and we're bringing value that's measurable to the table. Staging is a proven way that helps houses sell for more and helps sell them faster over their non-staged competition. So if you struggle with articulating that aspect of staging, you need to look at the home staging stats that we came out with this year, homestagingstats.com. And so it's a 34-page report full of really great information. And then we parceled out some graphics and so forth. I even created some infographics that explain the process of a consultation, the pricing for vacant properties and so forth. So our clients can be educated because it's up to us to tell them what they may not know. But the fact is that we add value to the process, and we deserve to be paid for that, and paid well because we're adding that type of value. So always keep that in mind. We're not the star of the show, right? We're participating. The realtor who's listing the house, we consider them the star because it's their listing. And the seller, of course, we want them to get results. They're winning financially far more than we do as a stager as far as the net income that they receive. So we're not getting that as much money as they are, and that's fine because they're much more involved. However, we shouldn't have to cheapen our value and what we bring because we're helping them get more, if that makes sense. And our clients need us. They do need us. They need us because we're the ones that are helping them get the results that they want. We're helping the sellers and the realtors make more money, and you deserve to be paid for that. So we need to have that kind of mindset, and not, again, in an arrogant way, because we serve realtors, we serve sellers, we serve the builders and the investors. They are our clients. So I never put myself on equal standing or on par, equal level with the realtor, because they have far more responsibility in getting that property sold. However, I do see myself, we see ourselves as a valued partner with that real estate agent. Doubt kills more dreams than failures ever will. I love that saying. Doubt kills more dreams than failures ever will. I'd also replace that with fear. Fear kills more dreams. So when we doubt ourselves, that's just a dream killer. More than failure. At least somebody who fails has tried and attempted something. They didn't succeed. That's just one more way that something didn't work, and they're going to continue forward. Now let me talk about something that's really important. There's no value in free. All right? There's no value in free. People don't value something they don't pay for. When they don't have skin in the game, there's no value behind it. So please, please stop offering free staging, free consultations, free webinars, free conferences, free. There's no value in free. Complimentary is the word you want to replace that with. So say that with me. Complimentary. It's a complimentary preview. It's a complimentary trip to your property. It's a complimentary webinar. It's a complimentary conference, whatever it is. Get rid of that word free. Because when people don't have to pay anything or ante up anything for whatever they're receiving, there's no value, and they'll just, they just sort of disregard it. So never, never, never give your services away for free. It's always complimentary. So let's say you're doing a presentation in an office and you want to give away a consultation. It's not a free consultation. It's a complimentary consultation that someone's going to win. And I always say what the value of that consultation is. The value of the consultation is $250 or $125 or $375 or whatever the consultation value would be. Same thing with any kind of a educational thing that's being done. It's not free education. It should always be complimentary, and there's always value assigned behind it. Because I know darn well people that are providing lead in to other educational opportunities and are doing this for free. The goal is to get other people that are watching the free to sign up for something. And so when you can quantify the value behind it and it's complimentary, and say that it normally would be X amount, but for you it's going to be complimentary, then people have a sense of value assigned to it. And realize that your time is your most valuable asset. Time is the great equalizer. We can't buy time, you can't store it up, it just goes. No matter if you're a billionaire or somebody who's a pauper, we all have the same amount of time. And that's your most valuable asset. So you don't want to be giving your time away for free, because then people will take advantage of you, and we don't want to get taken advantage of. That's not a good feeling. And certainly I've been in that position where I've given it away for free and it doesn't feel good. And usually the intent is I'll share this information that's valuable with them, and then they're going to hire me because I shared all this stuff with them. And usually what happens is, oh, you gave us so much information, we figured out how to do it ourselves, or we don't need you anymore. So don't be giving your value away with your ideas and your time, because that's worth money. It's worth value. And we lessen the value of our service when we continue to do things for free. So this is sort of an industry plea for everybody watching. Don't do things for free. Always say it's complimentary and assign a value to it, because then the next time somebody wants that same service and they think you're going to do it for free, you'll be able to say, well, last time it was complimentary, this time I'm going to be charging because that's my normal practice. Versus last time I gave it to you for free, but now I guess I should charge you for it. And they're going to say, well, last time you did it for free, why won't you do it for free again? So again, they don't assign any value to it when they haven't had to think about it monetarily, what the monetary value of that service is. Now, the best price isn't the same as the best value, right? Focus on your quality versus the price. So what do you offer with your staging that's different or the better quality than maybe somebody else? That's what you want to focus on with your marketing. So you want to identify your differentiating factors. Now, some of the differentiating factors I identified, one would be your credentials. What sets you apart from your competition? What kind of education do you have? What kind of other niche specialties do you offer? So your credentials that qualify you in this industry. What services do you offer? Is there anything that you do that's unique? Some stagers offer cleaning services or photography. Now, I'm not saying they're the ones whipping out the mop and the broom, but they might coordinate that on behalf of the client, so it saves them one less step, right? So their services are different. What about responsiveness? Boy, the kiss of death is not responding to a phone call or an email. So when you're somebody that does respond, and I hear this, thank you for answering your phone. I didn't expect you to pick up on a Sunday. Or I called 5 other people. You're the first one who answered your phone. So be that person who responds to the client's request, because that will assign to your reputation, and that gets out to people that you're somebody that is timely and is responsive and they can get a hold of. What about availability of your staging? Are you booking out? Some people, like a badge of honor, we're booked out for 3 weeks. We can't take any more clients. Well, you know what? The person that needs you next week is going to go find some other stager. So we're always available. We'll rearrange the schedule. We'll make it happen in order to accommodate a client. And we've even done see it one day, stage at the next. That's not ideal, but I don't want to send somebody to somebody else just because we weren't available. So that's a differentiating factor for our business. What about your staging inventory? Are there certain things that you acquire that are different than your competition? So maybe that's a differentiating factor that you can focus on with your marketing. And then your statistics. You need to be tracking your own statistics on when your houses are selling versus the general market, your regional market, and then you can compare them to the national numbers. But you need to be able to say that our properties are selling within a day or a week versus the days on market for the region are 34. So you need to get your numbers and be able to toot your horn with your own statistics. And then Fred Burns, a couple of years ago at our conference, really honed in on what are you the only? I am the only what? What are you the only for your market? I'm the only stager who, I'm the only stager with. It could be credentials, it could be your background, but something that separates you from your competition. And that again is part of your marketing and your messaging. That adds value to working with you versus somebody else. So it's not about price. Only put price in front of a client when you understand what is motivating them. So you have to understand what their pain points are and then address that challenge that you're going to be helping them solve that challenge that they're having or the problem. And that will motivate them to work with you versus it being all about price. So focus on what is motivating them to want to stage in the first place. Have they been sitting on the market and are not sold? Are they expecting a really strong price for their property? Do they need a certain net amount out of the house, whatever it is? So find out what's motivating them to do the staging and focus on that, and that you're providing the solution for that versus I'm the cheapest, that's why you need to hire me. Another approach is to provide a level of customer service that your competitors can't match. White glove treatment, special things that you might do for the client that other people don't. It might be for the first open house, what have you. You provide food. You come and partner with the real estate agent, and you're part of that whole open house strategy. People like to feel like they're being treated like elite. So that kind of out-of-the-box thinking and strategy for the services you're offering, a higher level, something that your competitors aren't doing, maybe you come up with something like that for your marketing. And that builds trust with your clients. So when they know that you're providing a service that they can rely on, that's not, that you're somebody that they can count on, that you're responsive, you're priced fairly, you don't have to be the cheapest, they're going to then stop shopping other people. You're going to be their go-to stager, and that's how you get clients that are loyal to you for a decade or more. They just don't shop you, and that's what you're after. And that's built with relationship, and that is built on trust. And then becoming that referred person, that comes with you following through and with your commitments, delivering a great product, following through with what you said you were going to do, and being available to your clients for their next listings and so forth. So that builds that relationship, and then you won't be competing on price because you're not going to be being bid out against other people. And ultimately, it's your mindset is determined by your beliefs. So it all circles back to, what do you believe about yourself? Do you believe you're worth the money that you should be charging for staging? And if the answer is like, well, I'm not really sure, or no, then you need to work on your mindset and the beliefs about yourself and the value that you bring. And when somebody gets $100,000 more in their property because it was staged, and that can be, documented that was the strategy, that they're able to get more, even $10,000 more or $50,000 more, you don't think that you were part of that whole process, and that's not something that you should be feeling really proud of, and it lead to the belief that you are worth the money that you need to be charging for your staging services, and the value that we bring to the table, and the value we bring to the process, and the value we bring to the entire industry. So we have to have that mindset. So I'll just challenge you, if you don't have that mindset now, that you feel the confidence, and when you're working with a client that, client starts trying to negotiate, perhaps, that happens, and your first response shouldn't be to drop your price, because you're just caving in. Bring up your value and why you're worth what you're charging, why the value of what you're bringing to the table is worth it. So thanks so much for joining me. We have our live Q&A session in the Zoom chat room coming up. And then, of course, there'll be some more great speakers you'll be able to hear and enjoy. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to hear what I had to share about mindset and pricing and value. And please, please, I implore everybody to just really, really take to heart the fact that you are valuable, and our industry is valuable. And our clients need to have us be the ones to educate them on why we are valuable and in the process, and how we can help them get what they want. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you for watching. Value versus Cost, Mindset, Strategies to Increase Profits. Presented by your IAHSP International Chairwoman Jenny Norris. Brought to you by Zoom Casa. Your home concierge for life. Now, join us in the Facebook group to watch our vendor features. Discover products and trends from manufacturers and vendors who know and understand the value of home staging. Post comments and click the links to make purchases.
The Live Broadcast Network. Podcasts you can watch.
Look, Mom. I made that.